Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ksenia. I make videos with people who are going through the family green card process. I'm not an attorney. My videos are based on public information, my own experience and the experience of my subscribers, and the purpose of my channel is to give you guys the confidence to go through this process completely on your own. In today's video, I will show you how to fill out the form N-600 online. To start this form, go to My Account, file a form online. In the drop-down menu, select the form that you wish to fill out, N-600, Start Form. Let's quickly review the eligibility for this form. This form is used for those people who were born outside of the United States who derived citizenship from their U.S. citizen parent. This form can be filled out on behalf of a person who automatically became a U.S. citizen if they are still under age 18, or if this person who derived citizenship has already turned 18, they must be the ones to fill out this form for themselves. This application can also be used for the purposes of updating your status as a U.S. citizen in USCIS database, because some people who automatically derive their U.S. citizenship can be listed as an alien in USCIS database. If this form is filled out for a child whose U.S. citizen parent became a U.S. citizen after the child was born, they should meet or should have met the following eligibility criteria prior to turning 18. One of their parents must be a U.S. citizen. They must be the biological child of a U.S. citizen parent, although there are some exceptions listed in the form instructions right on the first page. The person who derived citizenship must be first lawfully admitted to the United States as a lawful permanent resident, and you must be living in the United States in legal and physical custody of your U.S. citizen parent. If you are already over 18 applying for this form for yourself, all of these conditions must have been met before you turned 18. It doesn't mean that you now have to be living with your U.S. citizen parent. It just means that before you turned 18, you must have been living with your U.S. citizen parent. Other things you can read at your own time. They do give you a general list of documents that you may need, but there are a lot more documents and evidence that you're going to need to provide at the end of this application, and the rest you can read at your own time and start application. First, select the basis of your eligibility, whether you are filling out this application for yourself or on behalf of a minor child. If you are already over the age of 18, you must select this option. And if the child is still underage, you must select this option. Next, provide the relationship to the U.S. citizen parent. Most of the time, this would be a biological child of a U.S. citizen parent, but USCIS also recognizes the following relationship types for the purposes of this certificate. Again, you can review form instructions. Next, the About You section is all about the person who derived citizenship, the child who was born overseas. Even if this form is being filled out on behalf of this child by their parent, this section is still asking about that child. If you are applying for yourself and you're over 18, then of course, provide this information about yourself. Name, and provide the name of this child exactly as it appears on their permanent resident card. You can answer if the name you provided at the top matches the green card. And of course, if this doesn't apply to you because you derived your citizenship at birth, then you can simply leave it blank and move on. Moving on, it will ask if this person has ever used any other names since birth. Most likely no, but if the answer is yes, then you would have to provide other names that this applicant has ever used. If you provide any additional names here, then in the evidence section at the end, you will be asked to provide proof of those name variations in a form of an official document. Next, provide the contact information, phone number, and email address. If the applicant is still under the age 18, then you can provide the contact information of their parent. Provide the mailing address, and because this applicant must be residing in physical legal custody in the United States, then this address should be in the United States. Next, answer if this mailing address we just provided matches the actual address where the applicant resides. Next, provide the applicant's date of birth and the applicant's country of birth. Next, provide the country of citizenship or nationality of this applicant before they automatically derived their citizenship. Next, provide the port of entry that was used to enter the United States. So this is where the applicant's passport was checked. And when did the applicant enter the United States most recently? And the name the applicant used when entering the United States, most likely the same name that is in their passport. Next, it will ask what document did they use to be admitted to the US, most likely passport. A travel document is, for example, a border crossing card, a refugee or an asylee travel document. Provide the passport number, because we said it was a passport, and the country that issued this passport, and the issue date of this passport. Next, answer the question about permanent residency. Has the applicant ever been a permanent resident? If you're filling out this for your minor child, then most likely they have to be a permanent resident first before deriving the citizenship. If you answer no, this is likely for those of you who, for example, are simply applying for certificate of citizenship because you automatically derived your citizenship at the time of your birth. And answer when they became a permanent resident. So this would be the date of approval. Next, it will ask you at what USCIS office this person was granted their permanent residency. So if the applicant adjusted status in the United States, so this would be the field office, or if the applicant obtained their permanent residency through a consulate overseas, then provide the location of where they were admitted for permanent residency, which means the port of entry, basically, where their green card was activated. Next, answer if this applicant has ever lost their permanent resident status and if they have ever previously applied for a US passport. In our case, it's a no, but let's say, for instance, you automatically obtained your citizenship at birth and you entered the United States with a US passport, then you can answer yes. But in our case, it's no. Next, answer information about adoption. If this applicant was adopted, then of course, they would need to provide the following information about their adoption. In our case, the answer is no. Next, provide the applicant's alien number. Next, provide this person's social security number if they have one. Same applies to online account number. This would only exist in this section, in the account information. If you cannot locate your account number in here, then equally, you can simply say, I don't know or I don't have it, and leave it at that. Provide the marital status, again, of the applicant. Because we're filling out for a minor child, we'll select single, never married, their sex, height, click next. Answer if the applicant has ever been part of US Army. Of course, in our case, it's a no. Next, answer if this applicant regularly resides in legal and physical custody of the US citizen parent, or if you're applying for yourself as over 18, did you regularly reside in legal and physical custody? You have to answer yes or no. Of course, to be eligible for this form, you must answer yes. If you answer no, you may be ineligible to proceed with this application. Next, answer if your parents were married to each other at the time you were born. Generally, if the US citizen parent who is giving their citizenship to this applicant is a dad, so is a father, then the child should ideally be born in wedlock. If the US citizen parent is a mother, then that is not a requirement. Answer if the applicant's parents married after the applicant was born. So if the parents were married when this applicant was born, then of course the second answer would be no. Next. Now this section is asking for information about the US citizen mother or father who is giving their citizenship to the applicant. So provide their name, how they relate to the applicant, and their current physical address. Next, provide the US citizen parent's date of birth and country of birth. Next, provide how this US citizen parent obtained their citizenship. So let's say in our case, it's through naturalization. And then it will ask you questions about where and when this naturalization occurred, and their certificate number, and when they became naturalized. So this would be the date of the ceremony. Next, provide this parent's A number. Even if they naturalized, that A number is still listed on the naturalization certificate. And answer if they have ever lost their US citizenship. Hopefully you answer no. Next, provide the marital information about this qualifying US citizen parent, how many times they've been married, including current marriage, annulled marriages, marriages to the same person, and their current marital status. They will also ask if your other parent is the spouse of your US citizen parent. Next, answer if the US citizen parent has ever been in the US Army. Let's say yes or no. If you answer yes, then it will ask you to provide information about their service. Next. Now, this subsection will then ask you about your other biological parent or your other adoptive parent. So not the parent who is giving you their citizenship, but your other parent. So provide their name, how they relate to the applicant, their current physical address. Next, provide this other parent's date of birth and country of birth. Next, provide this other parent's country of citizenship or nationality, and whether they are also a US citizen, yes or no. If you say yes, then they will ask you how the citizenship was obtained and information about the citizenship. But in our case, let's say no, and if they've ever lost their US citizenship. Next, provide the information about this other parent's marriage, including current, annulled, and marriages to the same person, and their current marital status. And they will also double check if this other parent is the current spouse of the US citizen parent. Next, answer about armed forces service, yes or no. And the final part of this application asks about legal guardians. In my understanding, you only need to provide this information if someone else is a legal guardian of the applicant who is not the US citizen or their other parent. In my understanding, if the applicant resides currently with their US citizen parent or resided before they were 18, then there's nothing here you need to provide, and we can simply skip this part. Next, the evidence section will ask you to firstly upload the 2x2 photo of the applicant. So the person who obtained their automatic citizenship through their parent. It is a passport style photo requirement. You can actually take the photo on your phone as long as it meets the requirements listed on the Department of State website. Next, it asks for the birth certificate of the applicant, the person who derived their citizenship. If it's in a foreign language, it needs to be translated into English also. So once you upload any file, it will ask you to select the document type, birth certificate, for example, and then Ideally, the translation should be included in the same PDF file, but if it's not, then you can upload another file. You can click this again, upload another file, and select, for example, other documents. But make sure that your file names are reflective of what the file is about. Next, it will ask for the birth certificate of the qualifying U.S. citizen parent who is giving their citizenship to the applicant. Next, it will ask for all marriage certificates of the U.S. citizen parent, not just the most recent marriage. Next, any marriage termination documents also for all prior marriages of the qualifying U.S. citizen parent. Next, you'll need to upload the proof of U.S. citizen parent's citizenship in a form of birth certificate, naturalization certificate, certificate of citizenship, etc., or an unexpired U.S. passport. Next, this part of evidence is a little bit confusing because it's asking for proof of citizenship of the applicant who derived their citizenship. And of course, for some of you, if you're applying for N-600, especially for a minor child, then you obviously don't have proof of the citizenship. This is only for those of you who are applying on behalf of yourself and you were, for example, born overseas, you have your CRBA or you have your US passport, then you can upload that proof here. But this does not apply to this applicant. So we can simply skip this part of the evidence. And when you click next, it will give you an alert, but because it is a yellow alert, you can still proceed with your application without uploading anything in this specific part. Next, provide the permanent resident card of the applicant, both front and back of the permanent resident card, if applicable. If you are applying for yourself, you're over 18 and you automatically acquired citizenship at birth, you don't have a permanent resident card, then of course you can skip this. Next, this part of evidence asks for U.S. citizen parents' proof of residence in the United States. This only applies to people who are claiming U.S. citizenship at birth. These are just some of the examples: school, military employment records, leases. You could also include utility bills, tax returns, employment information, pay stubs that were regularly received. This does not apply to us, so we're not going to upload anything here. Next, if there's any evidence that is missing or any of this evidence you were not able to obtain, you can supplement it with secondary evidence, but do keep in mind that USCIS will most likely send you a request for evidence if you're missing any of these important documents. The secondary evidence must overcome the unavailability of the required documents. So you must make all efforts in obtaining this evidence before you claim that it was not able to be obtained. If you have nothing to upload here, then you can simply skip it and ignore the message. Next, if you have anything to clarify in your application, you can provide additional information. So when you add a response, it will ask you to reference a specific part of the application and any comments you would like to clarify. If you have nothing to clarify, you can simply skip this page. Next, they will tell you the filing fee, if there are any alerts, if there's anything you missed. They will give you a summary of your form. Do click on this part to obtain a draft application for your own records. After you review, click next. Provide the signature on this page, depending on whoever is submitting this application. So for example, because we are filling this out for a minor child, then the U.S. citizen parent would be the one to sign this. If you're applying for yourself, you're over the age 18, then provide your name here. Because we're applying on behalf of a minor child, the U.S. citizen parent would sign. And the last page will direct you to pay and submit this application. If you found this video useful, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye!